Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. Like Miki said, the series that we're talking on is living in God's promises. The specific promise I'm going to be looking at today comes from the Gospel of Matthew, where Christ says, "Come to me and I will give you rest." Before we dive in, I have to say, I think it's really funny that I'm giving this talk out of everyone, just because I'm probably the least rested person right now ever. I don't know how to rest and I'm not very good at it. If you know me, you'd know I'm probably in the busiest period of my life. All blessings, but my to-do list has about 25 items that needs to be done by the end of the week. Planning a wedding, purchasing a house, social life, job. I have a lot to do and I'm mostly overwhelmed. So if you speak to me and I don't have to speak to you, it's probably that reason. But I'm very grateful because they offered me a few verses and this verse took out the most, just because I think I needed to learn this the most. So I'm going to be showing you guys what I've learned throughout this experience. But the reason I picked this verse and the reason it's so nice is because, or the thing that I found it so nice is because it's such a wholesome verse. Come to me and I'll give you rest. Sounds so lovely. Who doesn't like the sound of rest? And we always need rest. Humans have always been on the search for rest. And it's quite weird we don't feel rested because we do everything to rest so that one day we can rest. We do everything in our power just so that one day we can rest. We work so we can rest. We save money so we don't have to work so we can one day rest. We take holidays to rest. We then scroll or watch entertainment so we can just feel rested. But when it's over, when we're finished with whatever we do we actually feel rested? Do we feel like we're ready to take on another day? Do we feel like, that's it, cool, I'm happy to go now. Next day, let's take it on. We don't. I personally don't. I don't know about you guys, but I don't. And I want us to kind of look into why we do not feel rested. Jesus asks us to come to him and he will give us rest. And the invitation seems really easy. Come to me and I will give you rest. It's so plain. We come to church. We are Christians. We are part of the body of Christ. We have the communion. Why don't we feel rested? Why? What do we do wrong? Surely we've fulfilled that invitation. We've come to you. We're in church. All of you now are in church. I'm sure most of you have communion regularly. Why don't you feel rested? Is there something wrong? So that begs another question. Are we really coming to Christ? And what does it really mean to come to him? Like I said, we never feel rested or recharged, and we always do everything we can to feel rested or recharged, but it never works. So I really want us to deep dive into the promise that Christ has given us. And like I said, the first part of the verse is so wholesome. It's so just nice. Oh, wow. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I labor and I'm heavy laden. I want rest. It's so easy. Wow, so wholesome. But I think a lot of us miss the second part of the verse. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Before we deep dive into this, I want us to all be on the same page of what a yoke is. Put your hands up if you know what a yoke is. Great. 2 people, great. Okay. This is a yoke. A yoke is a wooden bar they attach to oxen. They attach it and they pull it forward. They both pull the bar, which is attached to a plow. So they're basically just plowing land so then that they can put seeds in and sow the land. They usually attach this yoke to a very experienced oxen and then one not so experienced, so that the experienced one can learn from so the younger one can learn from the experienced oxen. This looks like a lot of work. And thinking and knowing what that is now, knowing what a yoke is, if we read it again, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. But he just promised me rest. Christ just said to me, come to me and I'll give you rest. And then he tells me to go do more work. He tells me to take upon another yoke. which is, for me, when I first read this, sounds counterintuitive. I'm supposed to come to you and you're Christ, you do everything. Just let me chill. Let me have that rest. And that's fair enough. Good. That's fair enough. I don't blame us for wanting rest, because I guarantee we all feel at least one of these things. You're probably burnt out about something. You're probably worried. You're probably stressed. You're all busy as ever. We all are. You're probably anxious. You're probably overwhelmed. And you're definitely tired. So I get it. You want rest, and it's so normal to want rest. But we all feel at least one of these things. What Christ is saying is, take my yoke upon you. I personally do not need another yoke right now. Like I said, my to-do list is X, Y, and Z long. I don't need to do more work right now. I just want to feel rested. My schedule is already so busy right now. I don't have a second to even focus on something else. And even back in that time, people in search of that rest, they were under oppression. They were struggling. People were poor. They had to work just to eat. Like, really work. And in this day and age where everything is so busy, we have a million things going on, and we have access to so much, it's very normal to feel at least one of these things. And again, I don't blame us for feeling those things. It's so normal. We all want rest because we all suffer, or we all struggle in one way or another. We're all working, we're all busy, we all have a schedule, we all have commitments. It's normal. And after that, we get overwhelmed, we get tired. So we just want rest. We are labor and are heavy laden, like Christ says. So sometimes we just want the suffering to stop or pause for a moment. But this might be controversial, but if we have a life that has no struggles or no suffering whatsoever, that doesn't guarantee rest. Our suffering is not what steals our rest. Because suffering itself is not bad. It's not a bad thing. God strengthens us through our struggles. He allows us to get closer to Him through our struggles. We become better people and better Christians through our struggles. But there is a war. Because the devil doesn't really care if we struggle or suffer. It's good for him, but he doesn't care. But he wants us to suffer alone. That's his goal. He wants us to struggle without God. When we are tired, when we feel like we need to recharge, what do? We probably resort to social media, entertainment, lust, laziness, anything else. Whatever your vice is, you run to it. I do too. All the time. I'm probably the one that runs it to the most. But that's the devil's whole playbook. He wants us to do it alone. He wants us to suffer alone. And if we're really honest, we actually search for rest in everything except God. And maybe the last resort is, okay, I'm going to just pray about it because I have nothing else to do. I've done everything in my power to fix this feeling and it's not working, so I'm just going to pray. And that's exactly what the devil wants. He wants us to look to recharge on our own instead of running to God. But for us to fulfill the promise that God has given us, the first thing we need to do is to go to Him and to suffer with Him. But I don't think we do that because we've convinced ourselves that rest is a passive thing. We tell ourselves if we have a chance to do nothing, then we'll feel rested, then we'll feel good. If we brain rot for an hour or watch a movie for a couple of hours, after that I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel like I can go. But what Christ is saying here is if you do actually want to feel rested, if you do want to feel like recharged, you need to take my yoke upon you. And we must learn from Him. There's no other way we can feel rested for our souls. We can rest our souls. Through this and only this, we can rest our souls. Through coming to Him and only Him can we actually feel rested. And through Him, this extra work, this yoke that we've convinced ourselves is difficult, I've convinced myself is difficult, through him, that is going to be easy. And what does it mean to come to him? Like I said before, we are Christians. We do the correct things. However, we still don't feel rested. And we know all the textbook answers of what it means to come to him. Coming to God means to be like God, right? It means to live in union with God. It means in everything we do. And we hear that phrase a lot, living in union with God. Sanctification, whatever you want to call it. We always hear it in church. We always hear it wherever we go. But the question is, how do we actually do that? How do we live in union with God? How can a human live in union with God in this world? You might have heard of him, but we have a really good example of how it would look if God came down to earth. You might have heard of him. He took on flesh. God literally took on flesh. And he asks us to learn from him in this passage. In 1 John chapter 2, verse 6, it affirms this and says, whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did. That's really important for us because Jesus didn't live the way he did on accident. He didn't just stumble through life and had a mission and only did that mission. He lived every single day very purposefully. He did everything he did on purpose. It wasn't an accident. He lived by very specific principles so that he can have a deep communion with the Father, so that he can recharge, which gives him the rest he needed. Every principle that he lived and he followed, I don't really think we see today, just because of the way the world is right now. And I think that is actually the reason we live in a generation of unrest, why everyone and their mums are tired consistently, or stressed out, or overwhelmed, or anxious. Because I don't think we follow the pillars that Jesus followed. I think if we boil down the life of Jesus, the everyday, the day-to-day life of Jesus and how he lived, I think you can sum it down to 3 basic pillars. The first one is observing the Sabbath. The second one is living in simplicity. And the third is consistently seeking silence and solitude. He did all of these things very purposefully. He did them for a reason. He wasn't doing it on accident. The first one, the Sabbath. The Sabbath is probably one of the gifts that God has given us that we completely underutilize. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus says to them, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. And in the creation story, it says on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had done. God doesn't need to rest, but he did. And he did that so that we can learn how to properly use this day and how to properly spend our time. We have to bear in mind, keeping the Sabbath holy is one of the 10 commandments. And in my opinion, me personally, it's probably the commandment that I actually choose to ignore most of the time. Because who does that? What does that mean? Keeping the Sabbath holy. What does that mean to rest on the Sabbath? But it's because we don't use it for its proper use. And that's what God is trying to show us. He's trying to show us you need to set a day to completely rest, to completely come back to me. The second thing is simplicity. We live in a world right now where everyone around us is chasing more, and we are probably chasing more. And we are told we'll feel better and happier if we achieve that next goal. For example, you probably want to reach a specific money goal in your account. If you have a specific money goal, you'll be like, when I hit that figure, I'm going to feel good. When I buy this house, I'll feel good. When I get this job, I'll feel good. I'll feel happier. I'll feel content. And that's really the story of humanity as a whole. The devil has tricked us all into thinking you need more. And we see it all over the world right now. That's fine. It's almost normalized. You open up social media, oh, this is what you need to be doing at this age. It's completely everywhere. But the thing is, this isn't a new trick. This is actually the oldest trick in the book. Like, literally the oldest trick. If we think about the fall of Adam and Eve, they were in union with God. They lived in the Garden of Eden. God walked amongst them. They had everything. But the devil convinced them they needed something else. They needed one more thing. They needed to be like God. But they had everything. And when we are not living simple lives, and we are consistently chasing more, we are never going to feel fulfilled. And if we are never going to feel fulfilled, we are never going to feel rested. And that's one of the issues we have. One of the biggest issues we have that Jesus never suffered with. We do not live simple or content lives. Maybe some of you do, but I personally don't. The second thing is, Jesus was also the master of being present. I put this as big as possible just as a reminder to myself, because I don't know how to do this really badly. Stop doing something while being somewhere else or doing something else or seeing someone else. If you have work tomorrow, stop thinking about work tomorrow and be here. If you have a task on your to-do list that you need to do later, then do it later. Stop doing it now. If you're with your family, stop checking your emails. Be there. Be present. Stop thinking about what's to be done tomorrow. We all know the verse in Matthew. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. So stop. This is the hardest thing in the world for me. I can't do this. But you won't be able to do this unless you stop convincing yourself you'll be able to rest once this thing is done. If you have something to do on your to-do list, you're not going to feel better if you get it done in this moment. So just be in the moment. Because there's always going to be something else. So just live in the moment. Your to-do list is always going to be there. Christ had a billion things to do. Christ had to save humanity. But he was always present. Consistently present. No matter what he did. And we know this. The gospel accounts clearly show this. He did not worry about the next miracle he had to perform. He did not worry about where they were going. He did not worry where his next meal was coming from. He was just in the moment, being present, connecting with everyone he met. And yeah, I don't know how to do this. I'm consistently thinking about what needs to be done next. I couldn't wait to finish this talk so I can think about what's next on my to-do list. But Jesus never did that. And yeah, this is something, it's going to be a challenge, but it's a consistent thing that we need to work on. The last pillar, silence and solitude. I put some passages in, if you want to look at them, of just some moments Christ wanted to spend time alone to pray. And this is super important because the Son of God healed the sick, he raised the dead, and he preached to thousands, yet even he needed to withdraw to quiet places to pray. Even he needed to take a break. Even he needed to go somewhere quiet and just connect with the Father. The Son of God needed to rest. The person who can heal thousands, perform miracles any second, even he needed to rest. Do we do the same? Do we rest in the same way he did? Personally, again, from my experience, I can't remember the last time I was overwhelmed or anxious or nervous or stressed out. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to a quiet place and pray. That's what I'm going to do. That's never what I do. That's not what my body or my mind want to do. They usually want to just escape. They usually want to feel numb just for a minute, just for an hour. Let's feel numb. Let's numb ourselves in whatever we do, in entertainment, in social media, in lust, in anything. We just want to feel numb and escape. And we've been tricked that this is hard. We've been tricked that going off to a silent place and praying is difficult. We've been tricked when we're overwhelmed or when we're tired to, I can't do that. I would much rather just go on Instagram or TikTok and just scroll because that's going to feel better. And then when you get off to TikTok or Instagram or Netflix or whatever, you feel the exact same, if not worse. Because we say to ourselves, this is difficult. This is something as well that Christ regularly did. And I think we can learn to implement it ourselves. If you do that, that's great. But me personally, I can definitely implement this. Again, we look for so many things to recharge in this day and age, and we've convinced ourselves it's very hard to do what Jesus did. And I get it. The world is so noisy. We just want silence. But we don't really take silence in the way Jesus did. We kind of replace the noise outside with the noise on our social media or our entertainment of our choosing or our vices. And there is so much going on. Human beings are not meant for this much noise. We weren't made for this many choices and this much stimulation. We literally were not made for it. Our brain cannot hack it. Which is especially why we need to prioritize that quiet time, that prayer. And Jesus says it himself. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." I like this verse, but that's because if I was a disciple, I'll be Thomas. Thomas is someone that needs to see everything in front of him and needs very clear instructions. This is very clear. This is proof of what Christ is trying to teach us, or how he lived. And he's being clear throughout the Gospels on this is how to rest. This is how to get rest. This is how to feel recharged. And our biology literally backs this up. The brain, neuroscience shows that the brain needs periods of quiet to recover from constant stimulation. When our minds are always filled with notifications, entertainment, and information, the brain never fully resets, which just increases our stress and mental fatigue. The brain never enters into its restorative mode because it's still being stimulated. Even if you're not doing anything, even if you're just lying in bed and you're just watching something, you're still stimulating the brain. So you're not actually letting the brain rest at all. That's exactly why we need silence. And the church fathers understood this long before any science studies. Saint Isaac the Syrian says, "Love silence above all things because it brings you near to the fruit that words cannot describe." And Saint John Chrysostom says, "The storm outside cannot disturb the peace within unless we allow it." Okay. I don't just want to throw verses. So before you guys go, I like to give some practical stuff. The one thing, if you're going to take away from anything, is try and journal and make some time for quiet time and just journal. Journal your thoughts, journal your feelings, whatever. Try do it once a week minimum. Try do it every day if you can. But why is journaling so important? It provides mental clarity that we all need. When all of us have 1,000 thoughts a second and we are all overwhelmed and stressed out, journaling helps you take that out. Our minds are meant to think, but our minds are not meant to keep ideas in our heads and ruminate on them. We need to get it out. And if you struggle not to journal, a good thing that I like to do sometimes is read a verse that you like, or read a chapter, read the commentary on that verse, or just write how you feel about that verse. And suddenly you're going to realize you're just writing all your feelings and thoughts down about everything in life. But you feel 10 times lighter once you do it. It helps. Just try it. We said quiet time and prayer. That is a priority. And we need that silence and solitude to do so. If you struggle to find that silence and solitude, take a walk. Slow your thoughts down while you're walking. It helps. It takes you out of your environment. It provides that mental clarity that we need. And it stops us ruminating in our anxiety or being overwhelmed. Stop trying to multitask. Like I said, be present. Multitasking doesn't work. You're just stressing yourself out even more and you're not actually moving forward. Do one thing at a time and be present. Be where you are. If you're in church, be in church. If you're with your family, be with your family. If you're in uni or work or whatever, be there. Use the Sabbath. Allocate a day only for rest. And that's rest with God. Not the rest that we've convinced ourselves that we have. Not that half an hour or hour of Netflix. or social media or anything like that. Use the rest that Jesus would have used. Go to a silent place and just pray. Make that time. Schedule it in. If you're like me and like to do to-do lists, put it on your to-do list. And finally, stop running to earthly rest. It's not going to work. We're not looking for physical rest. Our bodies can be rested. We have the best beds that's ever been invented. We have the best couches, everything. We're all very comfortable physically. But that's not what we have. That's not the issue. We all need rest for our souls. And we do that by following how Jesus lived. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you. Glory be to God.